is in my face. He's back in studio. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open at 64686. We just had. Go ahead.
I got another.
You got another bone to pick with me?
I had to forget. Okay. You know, I know I'm a washed up college coach, but
I think you sell yourself short.
When I came in here,
yeah,
drove myself here. By the way, I thought I saw a limo parked outside.
Seriously? Maybe Rocco and the Twins?
Who else? Who else would it be for?
Probably. Was it a Kerry limo?
He had his bodyguard with him.
Well, that's Dustin Morse. I mean, he's like big shot.
Great.
Twins
I like
Mark.
that
He's
guy.
A terrific guy. Yeah. Terrific at his job, too.
Might be the nicest
Rocco.
Wisconsin guy I ever met.
Yeah, Rocco is one of those guys. This is what they said kind of about you, too. They said, when he's coaching, he's kind of uptight, kind of difficult. You don't really get much of the Mace personality. On the Bumper to Bumper show, you see the real Mace. I don't want to take any credit for that, but that just seems to be what people say. And same with Rocco. They say after games, not that he's difficult, but just kind of, it's all kind of matter of fact. And they say, but afterwards, when the mics, the cameras are turned off, that then he's got great stories. And here he's terrific. He gives us all kinds of, I mean, his backstory, right? Rocco was considered to be one of the best baseball prospects in America. He was on the fast track to be not just a major leaguer, but a really good one. And then he ran into this muscular condition issue that ended his career. It took like 5 years for him to figure it out. It's just an interesting backstory. Yeah. And now, obviously, he's gone on to Plan B, and he's manager of the club. Now, I let him, people are mad at me because at the end, he was very complimentary of the poll ads. And I let him go, not because I agree, but because at some point, I'm kind of on record. I don't think I need to say again, Rocco, what are you smoking?
Who signs your paycheck?
So that, so I see exactly. So we're in different positions, but I'm aware there are a number of people who are like, well, we love that interview, and then Rocco really sucked up to it. It's like, well, that's it's up to him. He can speak for himself. I knew that there was probably going to be some pushback from the fans who didn't accept it. And
when I rave about some of my former employers,
yeah, that's it. Well, that's the thing. But you were not that honest about them when they were your employers. Because it's hard to.
I don't think I was ever asked. Hey, let me ask you this.
Well,
being you brought his name up before.
Right.
About personalities. How about our boy Nick Saban?
We just talked about it.
No, but he's the media darling now. When he coached, do you remember some of the things that he did?
Me? Yeah.
Huh?
So does that make him a fraud? In a sense. Because he's an example of a guy, like you say, who was always at odds, and he's always... And now suddenly he is, like you say, he's Mr. Media. He's doing everything. Commercials.
He's doing a different job.
Okay. Well, you brought it up for a reason.
I used to say all the time, and people say, I said, when you see Nick, and the same thing, the other guy always had the game face on was Mark D'Antonio at Michigan State.
That's true.
I said, no, they're very personable guys. But in that arena, not going to see it. And I'm sure a lot of guys that work for Nick, because I heard the horror stories for the guys that work for Nick, they weren't like that. Not like me. Always jovial, smile on my face.
Not when you were coaching.
Be around. Oh, yeah. Come on. Are you kidding me?
God, I mean, how many reporters did you have brawls with? Scoggins?
No, never.
Mark Craig?
Never.
You even had some fights with Sid.
No. Oh, yeah, I did that. Yeah, because you know what? Because they're probably, you just don't walk into someone's staff.
He's Sid Hartman.
I don't care who he is. You don't do that.
He didn't like that.
Yeah.
He didn't like when you tried to back him up.
He got it. And I remember him telling me, he says, hey, I'll walk into Brunick's office. I'll walk into Maturi's office. And I said, well, he ain't walking in my office like that. I might be in there with a player on a serious matter, and the door flies open and he comes in.
How often would he do that?
Every time he came. until he had some knock. And you know what? So the one time we got a knockdown dread in the hallway there going, and he said,
this is at Bierman? Where did this take place, this brawl? You remember?
Yeah.
Okay, somewhere, yeah.
And he started screaming at me. He says, don't you understand? All you need is me. You only need me. As long as you got me, they'll never touch you. And I said, did you tell that to all the other guys that got fired around this place?
Did you mention that to him when they did fire you? Because that didn't save you then, right?
No.
I mean, he backed you.
I didn't see you coming to my defense.
I didn't. I don't deny it. Yeah. But I'm honest about it. I've acknowledged that point. If I knew now, or if I'd known then what I came to know about the trajectory and the direction this program would take, and I might have said. But it was a historic loss at the time. You got to know that. But in fairness to you, it's part of what the best ADs, the strongest ADs do is. They don't get caught up in any of those They look at the bigger picture. And then obviously in that occasion, Mother Maturi was past the point where he was willing to do so. Is that fair to say?
No, I don't think that's accurate, but that's okay.
Huh. Well, what is that? What is accurate?
I'm not getting
I'm saying
No,
he should have.
You got your opinion. That's all right.
I just said.
Hey, on a positive note, because you're trying to take this down on that. But I've got to say something positive.
Yeah.
I got to give a little shout out to the women's hockey team. They do something for some adaptive kids that are playing hockey, and it's spectacular. What it means to those kids and the family is priceless, and they do a great job of it. So I don't know who's responsible for it. I wish I did. I mentioned him by name, but I'm trying to give him a pat on the back.
That's well stated. That's a good. I'm glad you brought that up. I will pass along. We talked about this yesterday, the day before. The most underrated athletic operation at the University of Minnesota. It's the Minnesota dance team. They won another national championship. They are a brand nationally. I mean, people say, well, this is Ohio State is foot. In dance competition, University of Minnesota is at the top of the list. I mean, they're huge. And I saw a couple of the routines, and it's tremendous entertainment and performance. So anybody who's good at what they do, and they're good at it, I want to give proper credit to as well.
One of the things I used to kind of lobby for, it didn't go anywhere, is, when all this Title IX stuff was happening, and, they had to add some sports because there was no equal to the number of football. I say, wait a minute. Like at Minnesota, why wouldn't you make that a sport? Which it is. They compete and put them on scholarship. Okay? Or the cheerleaders. Everybody has cheerleaders. They're serving and fun. Make that some type of sport and put them, rather than trying to dream up some sports.
Right.
And,
that's a good idea. They didn't listen to you. They never did.
It was common sense. That's why.
None of the ADs did any of the ADs? Well, Tommy Moe, you had a great relationship with. You had great respect for him. Did any of the others listen to you?
I doubt it. Yeah.
Well, Dienhart did for a while, didn't he?
Well, yeah, but yeah. Well, I had some go around because, and Mark Dienhart is as fine a human being as there is, but I didn't just jump after this. They kept talking, and really what sold me was they said, you know what, we finally came to the agreement internally. We don't know how to do this. So we want to hire a guy and give him control of the program, control within the rules, and there's some financial restraints. But you run the program. Okay?
That's what they told Clem, too.
Well, I'm just telling you what they told me.
Okay. And
you come here, and then, once you get here, there's just minor issues, and they say, oh, we don't, whoa, and I'll give you an example. One was I hear like the first away game, and Tim Allen, you remember Tim Allen was he came over and said, we got a little problem. I said, what's that? He says, well, they're saying the seating on the plane, they don't do that way here. We put all the players in the back. The most important thing, in the back of the plane, and they invite some people and some trustees, and they put them in the first class. And I said, no, that's not the way it's going to be. So he went out and I came in. They said they're going to be. So anyway, I met with one of the assistant ADs, and I said, why would you do this? He said, well, he says, because we sit them up there so they can drink. I said, well, first of all, there's no booze on the plane. You can cancel that one. And the other thing, they sit in the back of the plane. Don't you understand? And he said, well, that's not the way you're going to be. So I said, yeah. So I want to receive Dr. Dienhart. And listen, I said, did you or did you not? Well, this is an issue. And I don't want to make a threat, but if it's not this way, I ain't getting on the plane. I'll drive in my own car as a protest. And then you can answer to Sid and the boys. So anyway.
Did they back off?
Yeah, because I believed because I believed in it. Yeah.
Sure. Makes sense. I don't think you've told that story before. That's a good one. That's a good juicy one. It's very juicy.
Hey, we got to write a book. I got so many stories.
You say that every year.
I got the stories, but you got the ability to put it together.
But I don't
think
know
of it. What? Can you imagine that? Huh?
It'd be a good book. Huh? It's a matter of whether we could stand each other enough to get it done.
Mason and Barreiro.
We'd have to be in the same room. Huh? Hell, you'd have to have me in a Churchill room.
Mason and Barreiro.
Well,
Can you imagine right now?
I'd be in small type, and it'd be Glenn Mason in that 124-point type, whatever. One more break, and then I have I mentioned I had a coaching question for you, and I do. So
I got another story I got to tell.
Oh, another good anecdote. Okay. All right, we'll get to both of those next. All right, here's my coaching question, Glenn Mason. Then I know you have a couple more stories to tell. I'm watching, you mentioned Gopher men's basketball. They've now won 2 in a row. They won at Iowa last night. And again, I'm on the Barca. So it's not like I'm sitting on the sidelines anywhere near the sidelines. But I'm watching Fran McCaffrey. He's the longtime head coach at Iowa, right? Generally a pretty fiery guy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, almost to the point sometimes to his detriment. Yeah. Fran's red face, the whole bit. And I'm watching that game, and I'm going, it's not the same guy. Either something's on his mind, or he's medicated, or maybe he hates his team. I don't know, but I don't see, he seems disinterested. So I'll ask you the question. We all assume that if you're a head coach, you're going to be equally interested and passionate every minute of every game that you're out there. But I'm thinking, well, maybe that's foolish, because head coaches are human, so they might have stuff they're thinking about or distracted, or they might be bored on a given day. So were you ever bored as head coach, any place you were head coach? Were you ever bored during a game? Yeah. Where you're going, God, I'm not into this today. I'm just not into it.
No. There might have been times that you were thinking
distracted.
No, you might be thinking you're, way ahead, and you're thinking, it's an away game. You're thinking, come on, let's run the ball. Let's get out of here.
Yes.
Come on, let's get on that plane again. Right. No. I mean, that's what you live for. I mean, is those games.
Yeah. Well,
that's what's.
He just seemed odd to me. I don't know, man. Maybe he's trying to just be more low key. Because he can get crazed.
Yeah.
To the point sometimes where he hurts his own team. So I don't know, but it just was.
I used to think that about
interested.
Brian Kelly. Not that he was bored, but he there for years at Notre Dame. He was a raving maniac. Yes, I mean, they'd have the camera, yes. And then for years, they something would go bad, and they put the camera on him, and he'd be standing there totally composed, and I think he must be on Valium. Really?
No, that's true.
I mean, because he was
have that
consistent like that.
And he'd change. He'd rip coaches,
everybody,
quarterbacks. It was ugly. You're right. It was that, which is not. I don't think that's a good look, right? At some point, it doesn't. It just comes off as you're unraveling on your own sideline. I mean, how's that helping anybody?
Yeah, you talk about, you always think about recruiting, and people are looking, and parents are looking, and you see a guy ripping a guy all the time like that, which he did.
Right, he did.
Who'd want to go there?
Very, very true. So you had 2 things I think you wanted to finish with. What were they? Well, you got a long snapper story you wanted to mention.
I got to tell you about Derek Rackley.
Okay.
One of my players reminded me of the story. I thought it was pretty funny. But Derek Rackley, when I first got here, he was a tight end and a long snapper. And I'm not saying he was a bad tight end, but he was a great, great long snapper. So I said, I saw him one day, almost got hurt out there. Nah, you're not a tight end anymore. You're just our long snapper. And he was great. And then he was done. He graduated, and he got a job at General Mills.
Okay.
And we're in 2-day practices, and I forget who the replacement would be, but he wasn't very good. So we got done jogging one day. I'm sitting out there, and Hoop pulls in, but Rackley, he's going to go over the weight room, lift some weights. And I say, hey, Derek, how you doing? I said, hey, Derek, I said, you still have a year's eligibility left. Why don't you come back and be a long snapper? And we all laughed. And he went, well, he comes to see me the next day. And he says, hey, Coach, were you serious about that? I said, well, I was just going to joke around. What are you talking about? He says, well, I got a year of eligibility left, but I'm in graduate school. If we could work it out, I could be your long snapper. He said, you could put me on scholarship, pay for my graduate school. And I said, we travel on Fridays. You'd have to miss Friday work when we traveled away. He said, well, let me talk to my boss, General Mills. So he come back the next day and he says, talk to my boss. He's a big Gopher fan. He says, no problem. Plus, he says, he'll let me off work on Fridays in time for Friday practices.
Even better.
Okay. So the only time we saw Rackley, he'd show up for Friday practice or we travel on Friday, and he was there for the game, and he was great.
And he was good at it.
Okay. So now, after the season, he gets drafted, long snapper, okay, for the Atlanta Falcons. And he played a number of years as their snapper, really good. So now, a couple of years after that, I'm on the plane, flying someplace, and guy walks up. I said, hey, Mr. Rackley, how you doing? He said, I want to thank you. I said, what do you want to thank me for? He says, if it wasn't for you, my kid would still be selling Wheaties. Great story.
That's very good story. And slow on the trigger, Blakemore. That was is that,
Mace in your face.
I mean, are you smoking weed in the other room?
Boy,
What's going on?
I tell you one thing. I take a shot at Guardsy would never miss that.
No, he wouldn't have missed on that one.
I've misfired too many times. Now I'm gun shy.
Oh, that's what it is. You scared him off.
The best time.
That's what it was.
The best time I ever had in the show years ago. I forget what the circumstances were. You were gone. Whatever.
You took off. Didn't you sit in this chair?
I sat in that chair and I had control of those
all the
buttons.
sounders. Yeah, you love that.
Man, did I have a good time.
Well, you should talk to Abbott about just being one of our substitute hosts every once in a while.
Oh, I could do that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I have no doubt you could do it. But and it could be other show. It could be the Paul Allen Project, 9 to noon.
Yeah.
It could be for Common, noon to 3.
I did that as a guest host when I was at University of Kansas. I used to do a show on Fridays with these two guys. I forget their names. Well, anyway, and we used to joke around and kid and stuff. So after the season, they saw me at a basketball game. They said, hey, why don't you come on next Friday as a guest host? And I said, okay. What time I have to be there? They said, well, we go on at 3. Make sure you're there about 10 to 3. And I said, I'm going to be the guest host. I don't have to be there till 10 to 3. So anyway, I show up.
You wanted to prep.
I wanted to get,
prepared,
so
sure.
We're in there, and, the guy there, and you look at him, and so we're getting ready to go, and all of a sudden, hey, we got a guest host here, Coach Mason from Kansas, and all of a sudden, they sit back, and the guy's going to me. Looking at me like it's a setup, okay?
Okay.
And they put in front of me, and I had to read the weather report, okay? I'll never forget it. And I said, well, according to Sarah Croak, I couldn't get meteorologist.
Is that right?
And I finally said, the weather lady. And it went down, and then I had to take calls, okay? And so they said, okay, we got Joey on from Lenexa. What's your question? Okay, Coach, who do the Comets play this Saturday? I said, I guess some soccer team,
So they're playing with you.
I would tell you,
that's vicious.
After about, they could ruin the whole show, but after about a half hour leave me hanging, they finally came on. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
So if you guest hosted this show, which starts at 3, what time would you be in to try to harass Abbott and to prepare for the program?
Well,
noon, 1, 2?
No, I wouldn't worry about me. I'd want to come in and make sure whoever's sitting behind it was all, squared away, ready to go. And, I'd like, I have to be coached up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know how to, run the show for 3 hours, but I'm used to on this end.
Well, that's it. It's a completely different deal.
Yeah.
This is not as easy as I make it look,
I know it.
I thought I'd get a reaction from you on that. Love the story. Adam in White Bear Lake, love the story by Mace. And I do believe that Rackley is now an analyst on Westwood One Radio for the NFL. Is that true?
Yeah, he lives in Atlanta.
Okay.
And there for a while, he was doing some stuff with the Big Ten Network, kind of commuting. And one time I think he thought he was going to maybe move to Chicago for that, Anyway, he stayed in Atlanta. But now that's what he does. I think he was doing SEC football for a while on the radio, and he's a talented guy and moved over to the NFL.
Last item for you today. You had sent, in fact, the story, I think, to Garzi and me, and we did talk about it briefly on the air without you, that I don't remember what department. It was the Department of Education. The recommendation was that there are Title IX implications when it comes to this NIL money, and you're going to have to distribute it on that basis. Now, I didn't think it was an edict. I think you took it more strongly, and everybody's trying to figure out what the hell it means and where, if the whole system that's already chaotic is now thrown into further chaos. What do you make of that? How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, I think it just adds to the chaos again. They talk about you got to take $20.5 million, I think it is, and distribute it. I think most people were assuming, well, it would probably go, the majority would go to football and basketball, revenue producing sports. And the thought of saying, well, if it is, in fact, true, that they have to meet with Title IX requirements, I mean, it's the same amount of money, but other people are going to be getting less. And don't forget, there's another thing there. I forget how much money that is. It's in the billions, isn't it? Where the players for the former players over 15 years, they get paid?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't think it's by the universities, but it might be the NCAA.
Wow.
But then, if you throw Title IX in there, I mean,
the plot will thicken even more.
One thing I was thinking?
What's that?
I saw where I'm not sure this is accurate, that's why I don't follow recruiting anymore. Doesn't make any sense. High school recruiting. You look at the national championship game. One quarterback was from Kansas State. For one, the other guy was from Duke. I wonder what happened to the guys that they recruited out of high school. And how the money they spent for that high school recruiting. So 17 players, I think, are portal guys. Why NEAD would spend all the money sending these coaches around high school recruiting anymore?
They're probably asking that question.
Put them on
should
a private plane.
Yeah.
And, helicopter, at least cut it back, because I think the majority of guys are going to recruit out of the portal.
Somebody wants to know, Dan from Rochester, who would be some of Mace's first guests? If you're guest hosting the program, who are you starting with?
Big names.
Because you have access to them. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly. Who do you want on?
You could probably get Saban.
Oh, I could get him on.
I mean, think about how brilliant. If your first guest, as you guest host this program, and by the way, 3:10, after a break, Nick Saban's going to join the program. Yeah. That's pretty good. That'd be a good start.
Yeah.
I would say that's who you headline with.
I might even get Miss Terry on. How's that?
That would be even better. All right, here's the plan. You're dismissed from your weekly duties.
Oh, man.
But, there's a big but here. Maybe we try. Here's what I'm
going to say. You know what?
Yeah.
Anybody that likes the show, I think it's a good show.
It is a good show. I love having you on.
They need to write Abbott a note.
All right, we'll get some, a write-in campaign.
Or whatever it may be.
But we could also do something where we say, okay, let's at least still, in the off months, have you on once a month. And the problem with the rub is you, because you'll say, well, then I want more money. And you're not going to get any more money. So you have to decide how important the money is to you.
Well, I'm not going to do it for free.
Well, I'm just saying then that's probably ain't going to happen.
Why?
We only have limited funds here.
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying.
All I ever hear you guys brag about your ratings, and then you cry pour them out.
Well, yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
The ratings are good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying. All right, we'll negotiate.
You know what he'll tell me?
What's that?
Go get a sponsor. That's what he'll tell me.
We got Carrie Limo.
I know that. They're great.
Which is outstanding, but I guess he wants more. I guess that's the whole bit.
Who?
Well, we'll see.
Abbott,
yeah. Abbott's, he's very demanding.
I know.
Did you see him today? He was out. He always leaves by the time the show starts. Actually, I think he was in because he delivered water to. Has he ever delivered water to you?
Never.
He delivered water to Rocco.
Wait, look at this. I brought my own water.
That's smart. It's a good thing.
It's crazy.
All right, thanks for the time as always. Great stuff, and we'll be in touch soon.
Great, thanks,
Mace. Mace in your face. Kessler usually joins us in studio on Wednesdays as well, but apparently he's got some other duties. We'll find out why, but we will catch up with him by telephone. That's coming up.
I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America?
Dan Kessler.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I can't trust Obama. He's an Arab.
Dan Kessler.
Tear down this wall.
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Dan Kessler.
And now, to help Dan break down all the tough questions in politics, it's our own
Dan Kessler.
Political Wonk.
I feel like a supermodel, except like times 10.
It's Channel 4's
Dan Kessler.
with Dan Barreiro on the Fan.
It is indeed that time again. Generally, Kessler joins us in studio. This is one of those rare occasions where he was going to have to do the program via the telephone. He joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little disappointed because we've had two already outstanding in-studio guests. The Baldali Lama started early, 3:15, went all the way to 4:30.
Yeah.
He was outstanding today. And then, of course, Mace in your face, who is clearly, he's bitter because I had to break it to him. This probably is the last regular appearance for 2024/25, at least this college football season. And he wants, not only does he want to be on every week, Kessler, he wants to be on every day. The rub is he's going to want to even consider that more and more money, and all of our extra money, as you well know, goes to you.
Exactly. Now, I would say normally pay the man what he so richly deserves.
Yeah.
And Glenn Mason, a big guest, and every time I follow him, I get social media messages, and they say, "You suck. We love Glenn Mason."
Very direct.
So yeah, very much.
Yes,
very much
nothing
so.
equivocal about that sentiment.
No, and so I would say do whatever you can to have Glenn Mason on. Just add a couple of more zeros to my paycheck.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
And let's see let's work it out. I mean, just because Chad Abbott says he will not pay more, I say that's just the beginning of the negotiating. And I think you ought to have him on. And as a matter of fact, co-hosting would be awesome, you and Glenn Mason.
Well, I think we'd kill each other.
Too far?
Well, I think we'd kill each other. It might be entertaining to hear us kill each other. I don't know. I suggested he should guest host. Try that a couple of times because I think he thinks it's easy.
Wow.
You know it's not. Yeah. You know how unbelievably challenging and complicated this job is.
Very difficult.
It's like air traffic controller.
Difficult.
It's really no different.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe fewer lives at stake, I'll grant, but I like to think we change lives, so maybe not.
Well, what I like to know, I'm just going to say one more thing about this, is that I just hearken back to the days when you were the ink-stained wretch, just tormenting the guy.
Yes.
And look how far you've come.
Yeah. Wow.
And you two are like bros.
Yeah.
And now I'm just figuring, if you can do this, it's an example to all of us in our country that we can unite
we
again.
Can come together
under President Donald Trump.
Sharks,
let's just bring it all together and do it.
Blue and red, Sharks and Jets, the whole bit. You might be right. Well, what's interesting about what you say is it's proof his willingness to be on as often as he is on and wanting to be on even more is proof that he does not despise me to the degree he does. Because if he did, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't come close to doing it. Now, he's got to protect his rep on that, and so it's got to be, I got to rip Barreiro, but the fact of the matter is, if he really, really, hated me to that degree, he'd have no interest in even doing it as often as he's done. I've told people this all the time. They don't want to believe it. But Mace has a soft side. You just have to look for it.
Yeah, and it takes a long time to find it, but you have somehow found it.
That's it.
But it is true that he is that, and that's part of it, that he really likes doing this. But it also helps him pick up women. I mean, it's a great line to pick up a woman.
That's a great.
And knowing Mace, knowing Mace, I mean, that's kind of the deal.
It's an excellent point. Yeah, and it somebody needed to say it, and it might as well have been you, so I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, exactly.
I have an item that's not on your list. I'm inspired by a texter, and it is, I think, an interesting question. So this year, the State of the Union address, the inaugural address took place inside. Yep. It did not take place on the steps, as it has historically been. So what did you make of that? Like, not so much whether it was a wise decision, but how did it change the feel for you, the aesthetics going indoors compared to what we are accustomed to on Inauguration Day?
Well, my first thought is that Washington, D.C., you are so cute. I love you. 24 degrees is freezing. It's so cold we're going to have to come back inside because we can't stand outside. Now, I think it was, how cold was it here that day? I think it was 10 degrees or, it might have been 10 below. It
was 10 below, yeah.
So to us, it wasn't that cold. However, I have been to inaugurations before, and you don't just show up like 15 minutes before and then you can watch the ceremony. Particularly when you've got a president, you have to go through security, and now security is tighter than it's ever been. And so you have to stand in that cold for hours. I'm going to say 3, 4, 5 hours, maybe even more. So I totally get it. I think President Trump made completely the right decision. To your point on does it change the address, you're inside the rotunda of Congress there, of the Capitol, which is absolutely beautiful. And it's not meant for the kind of grandeur of to have hundreds of thousands of people outside on the mall. And so you're not going to be speaking in the same way, giving a speech in the same way. And it's interesting that our listener noted that, because I noted the same thing. President Trump was a little more subdued, I thought. He wasn't really giving the stem winder, the oratory that you might have expected for an inaugural. But I do think it's partly because he was inside. So I think he gave more of a State of the Union address than he did an inaugural address, where you get everybody to come together. He kind of went down the laundry list of what he was going to do. I thought the whole thing was fascinating, top to bottom, front to back, particularly with all of the things that he did, not just in the inaugural, but from there on. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting 4 years.
It certainly is. We talked, I talked a lot about this yesterday, but we've got a couple texters who want to get, and I know it's on your list as well, your views on, I'll put it the way 612 guy did. I'm quoting, can we get Kessler's thoughts on Trump's letting the Jan 6 felons off? Not that he can't, that he can't as president, but that he can't as president, but how he arrived at the decision. The key to this to me is there was at least indication, I think by the vice president and at least one of the would-be cabinet folks that was testifying that, all right, whatever we do with the Jan 6 people, we're going case by case, and the more violent individuals are not going to get anything from us at all. And obviously, Trump said, not so fast, my friend, because in the end, in fact, I think the quote, I think it was in Axios I saw, the alleged quote was, bleep it, let's just let them all off almost like, it's too much work to actually distinguish between the violent offenders and folks who weren't involved directly in different stuff. So ultimately, why do you think Trump, after all the discussion of, no, the most violent ones we're still hanging on to, decides we're just going to let everybody free?
Well, this is what America voted for. So, America, this is what you wanted. This is what you got. President Trump was never very specific throughout the campaign of what he was going to do with them. He said he was considering it. Yeah, I'm going to release them. Yeah, I'm going to pardon them. But he did, as you point out, say on a number of occasions, we may go on a case-by-case basis. And as a matter of fact, I think 12 hours before he signed those pardons, Vice President J.D. Vance was saying, no,
exactly.
We're not going to let the violent ones out.
Yep.
So I think his pardons, 1,500 plus pardons, were shocking. I think it's shocking to the United States, the vast majority of whom in the United States are against the release of the people who did this on January 6th.
Including, by the way, we should mention the Fraternal Order of Police that have already, in fact, made that point.
Yeah, the United States Chiefs of Police, the Fraternal Order of Police, police officers everywhere are wondering, what does this mean?
Exactly.
Does this mean you can attack police officers and get away with it? That appears to be the message, even as there is a disconnect because President Trump said just last night, I am a big supporter of the police and I've been better for the police than any president in U.S. history. And I'm thinking, where are we here? We're in George Orwell land. So that's one of the things about it. But the reporting that you mentioned, I think it's Axios who is reporting that they were, in fact, going to do a case-by-case basis. But look at this. If you're going to do that, it is going to take days, weeks, and maybe even months to go through 1,600 cases. And so, according to reporting now, President Trump said, F it, release them all. He wanted to have a shocking piece of action, a big action on the first day. And man, oh man, he sure got it, along with many other things that he's done in just the 48 hours since he was sworn in.
Did former President Joe Biden screw the pooch on his way out of office?
Again, this is just unbelievable that Joe Biden not only pardons his son, but now he pardons his family just, I believe it was 20 minutes before he left office. And it's discouraging for a lot of folks on many, many different levels, including President Biden expanded the pardon power. We haven't really had this except once maybe in history, where he expands it to people who are not charged, people who may not have done anything wrong, people who didn't ask for it. He is expanding the pardon power preemptively so that they don't get sued and they don't have to hire lawyers and all that. I don't think except for Richard Nixon, I don't think I've ever seen that. It was really discouraging for the presidency, and then it opens it up for Trump to say, hey, he did it. I mean, what's the difference here? Nobody's different. If everybody is corrupt, says Trump, then no one is. I mean, do whatever you want. Sure. Why not? That's where we are right now.
Speaking of executive abuse of power, we got the local angle. We as in the state of Minnesota, joining the lawsuit to attempt to block the Trump executive order banning automatic citizenship to babies born in the U.S. This is, most of the constitutional scholars I've said it's in the Constitution, but of course, he's Trump, so he's going to do what he's going to do. So we're part of the lawsuit. We are among several states via attorneys general who are attempting to fire back and get this. I think all knew this was going to end up in the courts somehow, some way.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's a very interesting, if you want to look at it intellectually, it's a really interesting case. Now, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution was put in there, 157 years ago, 1867, I believe, in order to allow black slaves who were not born in the who might have been born in the United States to stay here, to become citizens. So this was for African Americans. It has been changed over and over and over the years, generally over 150 years, for people to believe that if you are born in the United States, you are automatically a U.S. citizen. I believe there are, I'm going to say, a dozen countries around the world that have something similar. Here's where Trump is pushing this, and it's a very interesting case. He says that, yes, you can be a citizen if you're born here, unless your parent, your mother, is here illegally. And that's a whole different wrinkle that I don't think has ever been tried before. Or if your father, if your other parent is in the United States and has overstayed a visa,
right,
whatever
temporary
it is.
visa, right? Exactly.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that this has ever been tried, but I think this will probably go to the Supreme Court. And then what happens? We have one of the most conservative Supreme Courts we've ever had in history, but most legal scholars that I'm just reading about, because I'm not one, are saying that this is not going to work because it is actually spelled out in the Constitution. And for all of the years where we hear particularly traditionalists, contextualists of the Constitution who say you have to go by exactly what it says, then you're going to have to do it. I mean, that's where it is.
Speaking of local angles, there was a major Amy Klobuchar influence, right? She
how about her?
I guess I had not paid attention to this until I saw her walk in when she walked in with the big shots. with Trump and Biden, that she was the lead organizer of the entire inaugural. She's in the limo with them from the White House to the Capitol. She spends the whole day with them. God, that'd be a hell of a book right there, man. It'd be a hell of a book, but I'm doubting she's going to give us the juiciest stuff, is she?
I can't wait to talk to her. I hope she does. That's a really good idea. Do the book.
Yes.
My day with Trump. She spent the entire day with Donald Trump and Melania Trump and the family and the Trump family. And as you saw the pictures nationally, she walks out of the White House leading the two presidents. I mean, think about it. Rides over there in the Beast, as they call the big limo, and she reveals just a couple of things that they talked about. She said that Trump and Biden were talking about football from the weekend. And so on Monday, they're talking about football. I'm guessing they weren't talking about the NCAA championship, or not the NCAA, but the college football championship.
Yes, right.
They were talking about the NFL games. But yeah, she organized the inaugural. She was in charge of the building of the huge stages outside the Capitol, then had to reorganize it inside. She gave the first speech and the first toast to the president. And importantly, she was able to get on the menu of the inaugural lunch Minnesota apple dessert, FYI.
Minnesota.
So that was part of the. Yep, it's all Minnesota. I'm hoping
apple
it was
dessert.
like Honeycrisp apple type thing, but
doesn't do much for me. Does that excite you?
Very much so.
Okay.
Anything Minnesota where they like us, they like us tonight. They like us. Yes, I like that.
Yeah, but technically you're not one of us either, so.
Wow.
Isn't that technically true? Am I wrong?
Well, no, it is absolutely true.
Okay.
Absolutely
I get tired of being the only one. I mean, you're not one of us.
Well, I am one of us more than you are one of us, aren't I?
Well, more, but not completely, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, so now it can be revealed.
Yeah.
I think I was born not too far from where you were born.
That's it.
So,
that's it. So that's the point. So the point is you can't be, I mean, you might have a stake of claim to being more one of us, but I don't think you technically are one of us either. So I just want the record to show.
I am going to say I am one of us.
Of course you are.
And I'm just going to claim it, just as President Trump can claim whatever he wants.
That's it.
I claim Minnesota nativity, as so to speak.
All right, let's do this. I want to get a couple other items in a second segment regarding some of what you describe as the bigger Trump changes as that might pertain to the economy early, and also the Ukraine war and some predictions there. So we'll do all of that. If you have questions for Kessler, you can pass them along via the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line. That is 64686. Are we going the distance today, by the way? Is it 6:30 show? Oh, we're not.
No, we're going to 6:15.
Oh, so this will be our last segment. Well, I forgot about that. Okay, you're right. Wolves' big rivalry week game against the Dallas Mavericks right here in the fan. So we'll pause here. And unless are you under the gun? Do you need to go? I mean, we can go either way. You tell me what's good for you.
No, I'm here for you, Dan.
Awesome.
Like Glenn Mason, I am here for you.
That's what I like to hear. Part 2 with Special K, Pat Kessler, in just a minute.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Brought to you by American Pressure.
Part 2 is Pat Kessler. We are out 15 minutes early for Timberwolves basketball. They're calling it Rivalry Week, and we've got 2 national TV appearances plus a KFAN appearance tonight after we wrap up. In this case, against the Mavericks. And our other Rivalry Week game, I believe, is a home game against the Denver Nuggets as well. Rivalry Week. That's what they call it. Kessie is back with us for a short stint now as we do wrap things up. Also want to remind you, if you've missed earlier parts of the program, terrific conversation yet again with Rocco Baldelli, the Twins manager, came in really the same week for a year ago at the same time and had a good talk. We had another good one today. I especially liked what he got into regarding his own history. This is a guy who was on the track to be one of the best players in baseball, and it all kind of went amok. I mean, he had a muscle issue, a muscle condition It's called, maybe you've heard of it, Kessler. It's called channelopathy, a metabolic muscular disorder where, he'd cramp up easily, he'd get injured all of the time, bones would break. And I thought he was really good today, sort of articulating what that whole process was like going through it, because it changed everything. It obviously changed his trajectory from being a big league ball player for 10 to 15 years to becoming, now a manager, but working in a front office before that. And then Mace,
but he's an MLB manager. I mean, I did not know that story, honestly. That was something.
Yeah, he was good on it, and Mace was always good, and he joined us between 4:30 and 5:30 as well. So we already have lower grocery prices, or that's the declaration, that's the proclamation?
Well, I thought we were going to have lower grocery prices by now. We were promised a 50% decrease in car insurance. It's going to be very easy, President Trump said. The big one, though, is the Ukraine war. He said that he was going to end it within 24 hours after taking office. So, that it might be a little more difficult than he expected. But that's
we'll be watching that. Yeah, well, that is. Didn't he already say how quickly is he going to meet with your guy Putin?
Well, he began. It's kind of interesting because today, in fact, President Trump did, I would say, threaten Putin via social media, trying to get him to come to the bargaining table, and he wants to bargain with him. Who knows what the bargain will be like? Trump is said to be a great negotiator, but he said in his social media post, we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Oh, whoa.
I mean, I know. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff. So yeah, he is actually working on that. Mostly what we've seen in the last 48 hours, though, with the promises, is he promised everybody was going to be blown away. And in fact, I think he is just flooding the zone.
Yes, he's flooding. That's a good term.
The zone with all these things.
Yeah.
And so you can't even pick one because all of them are really interesting and some of them are very shocking.
All right.
But yeah, none of the stuff that we were promised is happened yet.
The night is young, or the week is young. Let me ask you about within the state of Minnesota. I think this story broke late on Friday's show that the Minnesota Supreme Court basically ruled that this special election that I think was set up for later this month, that was off. That more time needed to be involved. So I took that as an L for the governor and for the DFLers. What do we make of that? And update us on that story in terms of when that special election is going to be. And does that mean the DFLers on the House side on the House side are just going to basically stay out even longer? How's this going to play out?
Yeah, I mean, look at this. The Democrats in the Minnesota House are still not showing up for the work at the Capitol. They say that they were cheated out of the agreement that they were going to have. But let's go back. The Democrats were going to have a quick election that Governor Walz called. The Supreme Court said, not so fast, my friend. You are violating the law. So it's not going to be until the final election till March 11th. So that is the question now for the Democrats, Minnesota Democrats in the House. Are you going to wait? What is it, January 22nd today? Are you going to wait, seriously, 6-7 weeks and stay out of the Capitol? Something's going to have to give here in order for the Democrats to come back and for the business of the state to go forward. It might be because the Republicans have already organized. They've elected a Republican speaker, put Republicans in control of all the committees. That's the way it's going to be, and too bad, so sad. But this is really up in the air at the moment if Democrats continue to boycott the Capitol and not show up for work.
Are we going to have a new, is it Inspector General the Republicans want, or what's the title we're looking for here?
Well, if I cannot get the pot czar, the high commissioner, could I be Inspector General? That's the big question.
That is a lofty title.
Yeah, that is. And that actually has a lot of power. I mean, look at this. Yeah, here's what's going on. After literally years of really serious scandals of fraud and waste and abuse in some of the state programs and federal money coming to Minnesota, Feeding Our Future, autism centers, daycare, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars have been stolen from the state of Minnesota. Governor Walz just a couple of weeks ago said, okay, we're going to figure out a way to clamp down on this. Republicans say, you're not doing enough. We need to appoint an independent inspector general who has the power to go into these places. And when you start to see something going wrong, you can stop it more quickly and move more quickly to catch the bad guys. Yeah, so Republicans are moving ahead on this. It's a big deal, and I got to believe something is going to happen along these lines after all of the fraud scandals of the last few years here in Minnesota.
Will we see you back in studio next week?
Boy, I sure
That's
hope
the hope.
so, Dan.
All right, me too.
I really miss you.
Yeah, we miss you
Brett
too.
Especially
this week. Like I said, we had I was all excited about a 3 in-studio guest Wednesday, and then you blew it.
I know.
Yeah.
I know I did, and I was going to bring my hookup along with me.
Well, that's
not hooker, hookah. Hookah.
Yeah. Well, don't we call it the hookah?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're just trying to play with the words. Yeah, that's another story. I'll give you the background on that next week. It's a good backstory to a delivery that I received earlier today.
Cannot wait. All right, man. Hey, thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk and see you next week. Thanks, Kessie.
All right, man. See you.
Pat Kessler, once upon a time, Channel 4 political reporter. I mentioned all the podcast options for you if you missed earlier parts of the program. Tomorrow is Thursday. That's likely to mean, I hope, unless Guardsy's out again tomorrow. I don't even know what the Gophers' schedule is. Are you in tomorrow for him?
As far as I know, Guardsy's in.
Okay, well then I'm thinking we'll do an extended version of the inbox because we've not really been able to devote proper attention to Dr. Dan's inbox tomorrow. I have hopes we can get like 1 or 2 more of Sean Salisbury visits. Technically, it was set up that he would be with us through the Vikings season and postseason. The fan has learned that's ended. But we'll see if we can get maybe at least 1 more bit out of Sean because we always love having him on the program. And we're working on a couple of other things as we always do as well. As we get further into the abyss, we'll have the opportunity to, I think, more often leave the toy department to get to some very good guests as well. The music now, because as I mentioned, Wolves Hoop action is coming up not only on the Timberwolves channel, but on the FM 100.3 Flamethrower pregame, and then Wolves against the Dallas Mavericks. I think Luka is still out, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll sure find out. Johnny is still with the team. He's like on this long road trip, so I'm sure he'll file some reports tonight as well. Thanks for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will talk to you tomorrow at 3.
Sayonara, suckers.